All right, bonjour, ladies and genitals of all genders. I'm very excited to bring you today's episode of A Million or the Moon, because in today's episode, I want to talk about a cryptocurrency that nobody else is talking about, an opportunity with massive upside, potentially speaking. I want to talk about the pros and cons with this project. I want to talk about the technical analysis, and I want to talk about very important resources that can help you in doing your own research. So folks, if you like the sound of that, do me and you a favor, like and subscribe, hit that bell icon to be notified of new uploads. Make sure you comment down below, click all the buttons because YouTube likes it when you click buttons. As well, if you want an extra hand navigating this market, then I invite you to become a VIP Discord member. You get access through our Patreon, link for that is down in the description below. If you want access to how we're navigating this market, our take profit strategy, our portfolio, the things we're buying, that kind of thing, make sure you check out our VIP Discord group, as well as our free Discord group. Link for everything is down in the description below. Folks, without further ado, let's delve into today's episode. So folks, the cryptocurrency I want to talk about today is called HEX, the first blockchain certificate of deposit. What HEX is a currency, a cryptocurrency that's designed to be a store of value and appreciate over time through incentivizing removing circulating supply from the market through staking, where the bigger and longer you stake, the more interest you can earn in the HEX system. Now, I have been compelled to do more and more research into HEX very recently for a couple of reasons. HEX is the third largest cryptocurrency in the world, and nobody is talking about it. Why isn't everyone talking about HEX? This cryptocurrency has managed to climb to the top page of the rankings by market cap, and nobody seems to have realized this. I put out a poll 3 days ago on our channel asking quick crypto knowledge test, what is the world's third largest cryptocurrency? And 96% of our audience said anything other than HEX. So folks, to start to put this a little bit into perspective, the vast majority of the world doesn't know about cryptocurrency. And the people who do know about cryptocurrency, the vast majority of those don't know about HEX or what HEX is. HEX has somehow managed to fly under the radar of almost every single person in the cryptocurrency space. But I think it deserves our attention. So I want to start describing what this thing is, the technical analysis, and much more. So the way the HEX system works, folks, is that you just go to hex.com, you click on stake, it brings you to this kind of page. You just connect your MetaMask. I'm not going to connect my MetaMask in this video because I don't want to dox myself. But over here in the top left, you just choose how much HEX you want to stake, and for here, how many days. You can stake your HEX for a max of 5,555 days, which ends up being just over 15 years long. And the longer you stake and the bigger amount you stake, the more interest you'll get paid out in HEX. Now, where does interest come in the HEX system? Well, it only really comes from two places. The inflation rate, HEX inflates at a rate of 3.69% every single year, and other stakers who emergency end stake their stake prematurely, when you do that, you receive a penalty. You lose all the interest you accrue, and that interest gets redistributed to other stakers if you end your stake early. So that's where interest comes in the HEX system. Now, if we take a look at hex.vision here, we can see that there's currently just over 350,000 addresses holding HEX, where 9.894% of the supply is currently staked. Now, if you scroll down to the bottom of HEX Vision here, if one were interested in staking, you actually can see a schedule of future stake unlocks. So if you wanted, you could choose to place a stake in between large unstakes. That way you can unstake when there's not a lot of potential selling pressure in the market. So we can see that there's actually people staked out all the way to the year 2036. And for the sake of full disclosure here, folks, I actually do have a stake with HEX until 2036. So I am a 15-year-long staker. I've staked for 5,555 days. So quite a long time. We'll see what happens. But for those people looking to stake, check out hex.vision. Hex.com is where you can go to buy and stake your HEX if you were so interested. Nomics is the website that properly ranks HEX and tells you everywhere it's listed if you go to markets over here. And also, if you go to hexdailystats.com, you could actually see how many X's HEX has done since its all-time lows. So we can see here that from all-time low to all-time high, HEX did over an 8 10,000x. And according to Richard Hart, HEX was actually designed to do over a 10,000x. Will it continue to grow by these crazy numbers? I don't know, folks, but it was designed to do so. Now, there's another very important element of HEX that I'm still trying to fully understand myself, but I think I understand it well enough to at least attempt to start to describe it, which is one other very important element to HEX is not just simply the HEX price, but also the shares you get when staking, because the way interest is distributed in the HEX system is through the shares that you're allotted through your stake term. So let's say you stake for 1 year. Then you're going to get allotted a certain amount of HEX shares, and those HEX shares represent the interest you will earn throughout that staking period. But if you start to think about it, since the interest in HEX only comes from two places, the 3.69% yearly inflation rate and other people emergency and staking, well, then you understand that the interest in HEX is somewhat finite. And then if you understand that the way interest is doled out is through the shares you're allotted, well, then you start to understand that, hey, shares in HEX actually get more and more scarce over time. Where in the beginning of HEX, it was very easy and very cheap to get a lot of shares. But nowadays, it's very expensive and very difficult to start to get a lot of shares in the HEX system. So over time, as more and more people enter the system and more people stake, every new staker is fighting over a smaller and smaller and smaller slice of the interest pie, because the interest in HEX is finite. So I liken it to be very similar to the Bitcoin mining difficulty rate, where in the beginning days of Bitcoin, it was very easy to mine 50 Bitcoin blocks per block. But nowadays, it's extremely difficult to mine Bitcoin, and you'll get rewarded 6.25 Bitcoin per block mine. So HEX has a very similar system, except instead of Bitcoin mining difficulty, you have this share system where shares, the ability to get shares, gets harder and harder over time as more and more stakers enter the system. So it's not just about the HEX price, folks. It's about locking in your share rate, because every new staker that comes in the system is fighting over a smaller and smaller and smaller allocation of the possible interest. It's a super interesting tokenomic model, folks. Again, I'm still trying to fully understand the math myself, but that is, to my best understanding, how the system in HEX works. So I hope that wasn't too convoluted for y'all. I wanted to take a second to also talk about HEX's price action. So again, guys, HEX was literally designed to be the best store of value in the world. It was literally designed to go up. It's openly admitted that the purpose of HEX is to appreciate in value. That's its use case. And again, the way it achieves that is not like through other cryptocurrencies that achieve price appreciation through token scarcity. If we go to nomics, HEX is not scarce at all. There's over 500 million HEX in the circulating supply, so it's not scarce at all. But HEX reaches its price appreciation through scarcity, but in a different way, because HEX incentivizes constantly removing circulating supply through staking. Because again, the more you stake and the longer you stake, max up to just over 15 years, the more interest you will earn, and you will get locked in at your share price. People are incentivized to always want to constantly stake, because it will forever get harder to get shares in HEX, and the shares in HEX is what determines how interest is doled out within the system. So it's through creating artificial scarcity that HEX reaches that price appreciation that things like Bitcoin do just through low token supply. So hopefully that all makes sense. Please let me know down in the comments below if I need to clarify, if that was very convoluted, if I'm repeating myself. Just let me know down in the comments below, folks. I'm sure I will get better in the future at explaining myself. I'm still fully trying to understand this thing myself. I just now feel confident enough to begin to talk about it. So take that for what it's worth. But let's talk about the price action. So folks, the price action on HEX has been absolutely crazy. Back over here, back in the 13th of August, I let our VIP Discord members know about this breakout from this wedge, and I let them know that I was buying here at these prices. So if you were a VIP Discord member and got in around those prices, you could have been up just about 168% on HEX. So folks, join our VIP Discord group. Link for that is down in the description below. But that's the past. What about the future? HEX was designed to go up, so will it? That's the question. In the short term, we are seeing some concerning things. We're breaking down from this trend line that we've held as support all throughout the most recent length of our impulse here, which is not very good. We're also finding a rejection here. Personally speaking, for me, for me to want to start thinking that HEX could see a bullish continuation, I would really want to see it get above 41 cents here. Even putting in a local high above 40 cents, we could probably test 41 cents, but I want to see higher time frame candles close above 41 cents, and then we potentially see bullish continuation. Major support level to look out for is 34.35 cents here, the 618 Fibonacci retracement from the local bottom to the local top here. So this is the critical support. Let's say we lose that. Well, then in that case, folks, I could theoretically see HEX maybe fall all the way back down to 25 cents, maybe 30 cents if we start to lose this 35 cent region right here. On the 4-hour time frames, we are starting to see a little bit of bullishness come back into the market. 4-hour bullish crossover on the MACD. RSI went to the oversold regions. So shorter time frames seem like they could experience a bit of a rally here. Again, I think that 41 cent region is critical for getting above, for seeing bullish continuation. But also, folks, for those thinking about getting into HEX, just understand that this is the most overbought HEX has ever been in its history. We're seeing momentum start to wind down in larger time frames. So if we lose 35 cents, get a higher time frame candle closing below that, then 30 cents and 25 cents become very realistic. So just understand that as much as HEX goes up, HEX also goes down. HEX has had multiple substantial pullbacks. I mean, this is a 63% pullback here. I mean, if we zoom back even further in HEX's price history, we can see that HEX has had 64% drawbacks. So significant drawbacks throughout its history. Understand that this is probably inevitable, that we have another substantial drawback at some point. So even though HEX is designed to always go up, just understand that it's not literally always. It's perhaps goes up over the long term, but in the short term, we can definitely experience pullback. Now, a HEX video would not be complete without mentioning what's going on with Pulse Chain. So for those who don't know, Richard Hart, which is the founder of HEX, is creating a fork of Ethereum. He wants to create a better, faster, cheaper version of Ethereum, and he's calling that new fork of Ethereum Pulse Chain. This could be an absolutely massive opportunity for every single Hexagon, because when Pulse Chain goes live, a snapshot will take place, essentially taking a screenshot of every ERC20 wallet out there, at least the vast majority of them, definitely MetaMask wallet, and they will copy and paste every single ERC20 you have on the Ethereum network to the Pulse Chain network. So that means if you have liquid HEX in your wallet, if you have staked HEX, all of that is going to be copied and pasted onto the Pulse Chain, essentially doubling your portfolio overnight. That means if you have $1,000 in HEX, now you have 2,000, 10,000, now you have 20,000, 100,000, now you have 200,000. Folks, this is one of the easiest 2x's in history. So Richard said that the snapshot will take place closer to launch, which he said is in roughly 2 months. So folks, as more details on that come out, we will let you guys know. So make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon if you want to be updated of new uploads, because we will let y'all know as more details come out. Now, this video is getting pretty long here, but before I start to wrap up, I do want to start mentioning some of the cons when it comes to HEX, because while I've mentioned a lot of stuff behind HEX that makes it sound, all peachy and sunshine and unicorns and rainbows, I don't want to just blow smoke up your guys' ass. I want to be real with you guys and explain the risk with HEX. So not only have there been multiple substantial pullbacks with HEX, 60% pullbacks, I think I saw an 80% pullback once. So just understand that, it's very possible for price to pull back. But also there are some very valid criticisms of HEX. So I'm sure many people have heard people describe HEX as a scam, as a Ponzi scheme, as this or that. And while there are some very valid criticisms of HEX, I don't believe HEX is a scam. I don't think HEX is a Ponzi scheme. Number one, because HEX is not promising anything it can't deliver on. The interest it pays out is just inflation. So it can always deliver on what it promises. Things like BitConnect failed because they promised interest that they couldn't deliver on. HEX pays out its interest through inflation. And also another very valid criticism thrown at HEX is the fact that the origin address, which people say Richard Hart is in control of, controls roughly half of the HEX supply. So HEX is extremely centralized. So Richard Hart won't say who controls the origin address. In response to why he won't say who who controls the origin address. He has said that number one, he won't tell people who's in control of the origin address because he doesn't want HEX to be labeled security. Because if you know who's in control of the origin address, then you can expect profit from the work of others. And if you expect profit from the work of others, then that's a security. So if you don't know who controls roughly half the supply, then you don't have anything to expect. And then therefore, it's not a security. So that's Richard's comeback. You make of that what you will. I'm not telling you guys to buy or not to buy. I'm just presenting my best understanding of what's going on with HEX. Also, Richard Hart argues that massive centralization is good for price appreciation, as we've seen. So again, guys, you make your own decisions. I'm just telling you my best understanding of what's going on. Another very valid criticism of HEX is the fact that HEX has a very low trading volume in compared to other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum here. So if you ever wanted to sell a large amount, you could potentially move the price action by a lot. And so while that is a very, very valid concern, it also doesn't take into account the fact that if HEX ever were to dip, there could be new buying pressure and new liquidity that comes to soak up supply that isn't necessarily seen on the order books in the liquidity pool. Not to mention that HEX is a very, very new coin. It's existed for, I think, roughly 2 years. Bitcoin and Ethereum have been around for roughly a decade. So, I mean, if HEX continues to stick around, I presume that over the long term, the liquidity for HEX would continue to improve. It's a very new project, folks. Also, people like to call Richard a scammer, a bad guy, some variation of that. And while Richard Hart has a very large ego, I wouldn't describe him as a scammer. He's as honest as the law allows him to be, and he's very intelligent. Even though I disagree with him on a lot of things, that doesn't take away from him being a truthful, intelligent person, in my opinion. So, folks, to begin to wrap up here, full disclosure, I am a hexagon, whatever you call it. I have many, many stakes with HEX. I also participated in the Pulse Chain sacrifice phase, and I am staked out the ass for years. I'm pretty sure I have a stake ending every single year for the next 15 years. So it's safe to say that I definitely am bullish on HEX long term. I definitely believe in it. You come to your own conclusions, folks. I'm out here just presenting the evidence. So, folks, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell icon to be updated of new uploads, because as more information comes out, we will definitely be talking about it. And who knows, folks, HEX has only been around for 2 years. It's designed to go up. If the same parameters that led it to do an 8,000x are the same parameters that still exist, which they are, well, who knows, folks? What could HEX be at next 5 years, next 10 years, next 15 years? I mean, it's safe to say that short of the internet shutting down, HEX is probably going to stick around over the long term. And we've seen Ethereum do a 14,000x. We've seen Bitcoin do what, like a 6 millionx, or 600,000x, whatever it did. Folks, cryptocurrency can really, really surprise people, especially over the long term. So while there are some risks in HEX, nothing's a guarantee, folks. No investment is a guarantee. There's always risk when it comes to investing. Do your own research. If you're comfortable with the risk, great. If you're not comfortable with the risk, great as well, folks. What's right for me might not be right for you. I hope I did a decent enough job to at least begin to start to explain some of the goings on with HEX. Now, I'll wrap up just by reminding all you good folks that I was trying to let all our people know in the VIP Discord group about this breakout at 14.7 cents. You could have been up on HEX over 160% if you were a VIP Discord member. Folks, sign up to our VIP Discord group. We're going to be raising the price in the very near future. Link to join that is through our Patreon down in the description below. Without further ado, folks, I'll wrap it up. And until next time.